more on this story, we can bring in our chief foreign editor, Rob Parsons. Rob, good afternoon. Let's talk about details which we've gotten from Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky over what this incursion into Kursk is all about.
Yeah, we've all been speculating about what the aims of the Ukrainians are in Kursk region. And among the things that have been suggested is the possibility of creating a buffer zone. If I was speaking about this just a few days ago, and now we have confirmation from President Zelensky himself, was saying that one of our chief aims is to do precisely that. Before, he was putting the accent on protecting the inhabitants of Sumy region from artillery fire coming from within Kursk region by the Russians. That still remains an aim, and one of the reasons you would have a buffer zone there is to prevent the Russians being able to fire at villages and towns inside Sumy region. We don't know at this stage because neither President Zelensky nor General Sumy, the Commander-in-Chief of Ukrainian Armed Forces, have made clear how deep that buffer zone will be. And at this moment, it's clear that there's plenty of room for movement. The Ukrainians are still continuing to attack. And that's because they have other aims as well. They want to suck in Russian troops from other fronts, in particular the Donbas area, where they're putting the Ukrainians under immense pressure. They want to embarrass the Russians as much as possible. They want to destroy as much Russian equipment and manpower as possible. And also they want to demonstrate to the Ukrainian people that the armed forces are effective and are on the front foot, and to their Western backers that they're capable of taking the war to Russia in a strikingly complex and well-executed operation. What they're calling for now is more from the West. Zelensky, in that same speech, said, look, we need weapons as much as possible. We need to be able to strike deep into Russia. And war doesn't take a holiday. A reference, I think, perhaps to the fact that much of Europe is on holiday at the moment, and a suggestion that the supply of weapons and artillery shells isn't as fast as it ought to be.
While you were speaking, Rob, we had Vladimir Zelensky, who said he was briefed on the ongoing operation in Kursk, and he says that Kyiv is achieving its military goals as well. And he's confirmed that more prisoners of war have been captured. Given all of this, and that Russia has not been able to get a hold of the situation in, nearly 2 weeks now. Soon it's going to be 2 weeks. It's unsurprising then that Moscow says it's not ready to talk peace with Ukraine.
Well, on what grounds is it not ready to talk peace with Ukraine? Not, I suspect, because the Ukrainians have invaded Kursk region. Russia wasn't ready to talk peace except on its terms before the invasion into Kursk region. The fact that Ukraine has struck back, done to Russia what Russia has been doing for the last 2 years to Ukraine, should surely not be a reason not to talk about peace. The Russians don't want to talk about peace at the moment because they feel it would be disadvantageous. They want to see if they can push harder in Donbas, gain some territory there. But they face a dilemma. This attack in Kursk region is putting them in front of, first of all, a political dilemma. What do we do? Do we ignore it for the moment so that we concentrate our forces in Donbas? But if we ignore it, already there are 120,000 people forced to evacuate their homes. What's the political knock-on effect of that going to be, particularly if it continues to grow? And the signs are that the Ukrainians are continuing to advance, so there will be more internally displaced persons. How long can
you ignore the problem?
Can Putin ignore that problem before the political pressure starts to mount? So he's got that problem, and then the other problem is if he transfers soldiers from Donbas, for instance, or Zaporizhia, one of the other fronts, to Kursk, does that undermine the effectiveness of the front from which they're being withdrawn? Probably it does, and that's one of the aims of the Ukrainians. But in the meantime, as we heard in that report, Ukraine is putting more and more pressure on Russian forces in the area, gaining more and more territory. There's a third bridge that's confirmed being destroyed now. And that is putting at least 2 blocks of Russian forces in Kursk region under immediate threat of being surrounded.